All right, now we're gonna start with a little bit of interaction. I need a response from you. I need you to think about something. Everyone can do this. It's a class participation game. I need you to think about, what do you love? What comes into your mind when you think, this is what I love? Like for me, I would say my family, my wife, Chipotle, like all the natural things, right? But actually, I wanna kind of break, I know we don't do this normally, but I wanna hear from you. So I need to hear some of your responses. What are the things that you love? Just go ahead and shout them out. Let me hear them. Your dog. It's a good answer. That's cute. It's sweet. Your what? Coffee. That's because you're a smart person. Yes, coffee. Who else? Georgia football. Bless you. That's right. We can cheer for that. Yeah, but we're not, just hang on. Okay, what else? Some else. Chick-fil-A. That's because there's Jesus in it. That's good. What else? It's true. I don't know. It's Jesus chicken. The ocean. That is. Let's just meditate on that. That's good. The ocean. What'd you say? Sleep. Yeah, or like Drake, maybe your bed. This is good. Now listen, for all of us, it's easy for us to think of the things that we love. And especially with people, it's easy to think about those people that we love. But the truth is, what we didn't hear is Alabama fans. Nobody said that. Wonder why, huh? No one said, my cynical coworker, they're the best. Nobody said, my neighbor with a dog that barks like a rooster every morning. Just want to shoot it, right? No one said that. But I also didn't hear any answers. No one thought of my ex. Yeah. Or my family member that I haven't talked to in decades. See, it's easy for us to think about the people that we love. But the truth is, all of us in our life, we have people that are really easy to love. We have people that are kind of easy to love, but most of us have people that are just crazy difficult to love. Let's call them the unlovables. What do you do with those people that seem so unlovable in your life? Well, you actually have an option. See, you could choose to completely ignore them, right? You could choose to act like they never existed. You could choose to live in the house with them physically, but be emotionally completely disengaged from them. You could act like they never even walked the face of the earth. But that's not a fun relationship. That's not a good situation. And I don't believe that that's what any of us would choose. I don't think that's what any of us actually want. Here's how I know this. None of you are gonna go to lunch after this, or later today, or the next time you go out to eat. No one's gonna go and say, yes, I'd like to order the worst possible experience you can give me. Can I have that, please? None of us ever say that because we want the best possible experiences in our life, and that includes our relationships. So with those unlovable people, we just can't escape from them being in our world. How do we deal with them? What do we do? Well, the answer is actually quite simple. You choose to love them. Now, I'm sure you're like, wait a minute, that's way too simple. But hang on, what if everything you ever wanted in your relationships, in your marriage, with your family, at your job, with your coworkers, every single circle of life you have, what if it all came down to a choice? See, I think that this is the key to actually understanding how to love those people. And so Jesus speaks to this choice. He actually gathered all of his friends around him near the end of his life. And in John 13:34, we see this final piece of advice, this commandment that he gives to them about how to live the best possible life. And so in John 13:34, Jesus says, a new commandment I give to you. You are to love one another. Just as I have loved you, so you are to love one another. Now it's pretty simple. Go love one another. Now what he didn't say is, go love the people that love you back. I need you to go love your friends. Go love the people that are really easy. I wish he did, but he didn't say, go only love Georgia fans, because for the last 35 years, sweet mercy, we need to pray for them, right? He didn't say any of those. There's zero caveat to this. He says, go love one another. Well, how do we do that? Because that's a lot easier said than done. How do you do it? Well, our answer is actually in what we just read. It's just so many times we breeze right by it. Because Jesus says, a new commandment I give to you. You are to love one another. Just as I have loved you, so you are to love one another. So how is it that we love like Jesus did? What does that love of Jesus look like? See, I would say that when we look at this love of Jesus for us, what we see is that his love for us was not driven by his emotions, but it was actually determined by his decision. It was his choice to love us. And thank God, literally, that he chose that. You see, we see in all of the gospel accounts of Jesus' life, when we look near the end, we see that he didn't feel like dying on the cross for us. There are accounts of him praying in the garden to God. God, if there's any possible way to do what needs to be done without me having to do this, can we choose that, please? See, he didn't feel like doing that. And yet he loved us so much anyways, that in spite of his feelings, he chose to go through with it. He chose to walk up that hill and to be crucified on a cross and to die for your sins because he loves you. See, what Jesus shows us is that love is not an emotion. So many times we think it's this affectionate feeling we have for others, but love is not an emotion. Actually, there's this guy who describes this love of Jesus in this way. He says, love is an act of the will accompanied by emotion that leads to action on behalf of its object. See, first, it's an act of the will. It's a choice. Now, it's not devoid of emotion, but it's not driven by emotion. It's not determined by emotion. And I think for so many of us, this is where we get love completely wrong. See, this is where the marriage breaks down because someone says, well, I just fell out of love with him. This is where the relationship at work completely sours because the other person just bothers you too much. This is where our political differences cause us to go and make posts on boards and pages about our disapproval of someone else's preferences. And for a lot of us, this is where we live in doubt or maybe even walk away from our faith in God because our emotions tell us that God must not be for us. When our prayers aren't answered and things don't go our way and suffering comes in and it becomes difficult in life, it's very easy for us to say, well, God, you must not love me because of what I'm experiencing. Our emotions tell us that God can't be for us if we don't feel it. What we see is that the choice that Jesus made shows us he loves us regardless of emotion, regardless of circumstance. Because Jesus chose to do this even when he didn't feel like it. See, love is an act of the will. It's a choice that's accompanied by emotion. It comes next. That leads to action. So it's not passive, it's active. But it does so on behalf of its object. See, the decision of love is always about the other person on the other side of the action. It's always about them. This is how we know that Jesus wants everything for you without ever asking anything from you. He's on your side because he chose to love you. Now, if we had another interaction and I ask you, well, what is the opposite of love? This kind of shows us what the opposite of love may be. How many of you, by show of hands, would say the first thing that comes in your mind when you think of the opposite of love would be hate? Can we just show of hands? Hate. Maybe some of you, it's a lot of hands. Maybe some of you would say indifference. Some of you may say apathy. That's the opposite of love. But I believe that when we look at this definition, what it shows us is that the opposite of love isn't hate, it's pride. Because your pride, your selfishness, will have to make everything about you. So, when your coworker bothers you and all you want to do is clap back at them, that's your pride. But love would say, show them kindness anyways. Or in your marriage, whenever someone disappoints you, or maybe your spouse doesn't meet your expectations, and what you want to say is, how dare you? How could you? Do you understand how this makes me feel? And go after them because of how you feel. Love would actually say, well, let me lead with grace. Let me give them the benefit of the doubt. And let me give them a second chance again. Because see, that's how Jesus loves us. Jesus died for us, even when we were at our worst. He loves us anyways. Even when you don't love him back, Jesus chooses to love you regardless. He's always waiting there to give you another second chance. Because love is an act of the will, accompanied by emotion, that leads to action on behalf of its object. So, who is it that you need to show love to today? Maybe that's the tough question of the morning. Who is it that you have maybe thought they are so unlovable and they seem so distant from anything about what I could give to them? Who do you need to choose to show love to today? Who do you need to give another second chance to today? For some of you, maybe that person is God. Maybe things haven't gone as you planned. Maybe dreams were diverted somewhere along the path and you haven't ended up where you wanted. Maybe you came in here thinking that there's no way that this massive creator of the universe could actually know me and be for me. Maybe today you need to choose to give him another chance. Maybe there's something, this whole Jesus thing, that might be better. Maybe for some of you, it's your spouse. Maybe for some of you, it's the parents that you just haven't forgiven, you haven't talked to in years. Maybe for some of you, it's your children. Or maybe it's in a work setting. Maybe it's a coworker. Maybe it's a boss who's just mitigated everything you've tried to do and has never actually believed in you. Or maybe for some of you, the person that you need to realize that you see as so unlovable is staring at you in the mirror. And what you need to know today is that you are not too far gone, that it doesn't matter what has happened in the past, it doesn't matter how big the mistake was, it doesn't matter what that other person said. The truth is, when we look at the love of Jesus, he shows you that you are so worth loving. And as a result of that, it means that the other person is as well. See, whenever you choose to love selflessly, whenever you choose that in spite of your feelings, you're living out this wisdom that says that love is not an emotion, it's a choice. And actually what Jesus tells us is that it's a command that has the opportunity to change everything about the relationships in your world. And by default, as a result, it also has the opportunity to change everyone's lives around you as well. Thank you.